Excellent. Okay, so we're recording and we're going live. So want to welcome everybody back. We're going to be going live onto the live stream on LinkedIn and Facebook very, very shortly. Takes a few seconds here to kind of get the live stream flywheel going. Um, so sometimes you don't actually know when you're going to start, but that's okay. We can all just talk anyways. So it's been a fantastic day. Welcome to, I think, the next to second last session. So I've been doing this for 11 hours. It's been a long marathon um, live stream, and I'm having a hard time talking. I'm having a hard time coming up with words. My
I
mouth
can
is
I can
tired.
certainly help you with talking, Doyle. Don't worry, I can help.
Thanks. I appreciate that, Simon. And with that, I'm joined by Simon Hodgkins. I'm just going to pull up my title slide here because I like to be super fancy. Simon is joining us all the way from Ireland, who's coming to us in your morning, right? What time is it there?
It's actually the afternoon now.
Oh, is it? Oh, right.
It's
Yeah.
just after 1 in the afternoon here. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Good. Well, a good afternoon to you in Ireland.
Well, it's great to be here, Doyle. I'm
Yeah.
delighted to be here speaking at your strategy storming event, which I'm sure for you feels like a marathon at this stage. You've been
Yeah.
going.
No, it
Been a big
is.
event with lots of speakers.
Yeah, absolutely is. And Simon, you're joining us now. Next up at 1/2 past, I have Rob Tyrie. We're bouncing around the globe, which has been phenomenal in terms of being able to talk and connect with other people. He's joining us from Toronto, coming up at 1/2 past. And these are the all the amazing people that I've been able to speak with today. So we're right here. We're with Simon all the way down here. So we have Rob, and then Tony, and Vikesh, and then Joe. So these ones are all kind of grouped together. Tony and Vikesh and Joe we're kind of all grouping those together to go into that 13th hour. So, all right. Well, it's been exciting. Thank you so much for joining us, Simon. So, yeah, please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, look, I'm Simon Hodgkins. I'm delighted. I am delighted to be here, Doyle, because I think what you're doing with strategy storming from an international perspective is really, really good. So I'm delighted to be speaking here at this strategy storming event. For people who I'm are not connected to or may not know me, I'm the founder of something called the Think Global Forum, which I'll explain in a second, and the Think Global Awards. But I'm also the chief marketing officer for a company called Vistatech, which is celebrating its 25th year in business this year. And it's a very interesting company because it works a lot with some of the biggest brands and companies on the planet, particularly when it comes to strategy and content and getting their message out to international audiences. I'm the editor in chief of a magazine called VTQ Magazine. As you know, Doyle, because you've been a guest on the podcast, we just passed our 100th podcast. So we have a lovely growing podcast that we're very proud of. It's been nominated for a number of awards at this stage. I'm also the president of the CMO Club here. I'm based in Dublin, Ireland. That's an international organization of some of the big brand CMOs. I'm an ambassador for the CMO Alliance, and I do work with a large number of international companies, and I'm invested in a number of other areas and organizations. But that's enough about me. So hopefully that sets the context, Doyle.
It sets the context in terms of Simon, you're absolutely amazing. And I don't know how you'd actually do that all.
Yeah. It sounds like a lot when you actually list it out and read it to
line by
people.
line. Yeah, look, you're
Yeah.
doing some amazing things, and I've been had the honor of appearing on your podcast recently in the last couple of months, as well as on the I think global round table as well. I think that's what you call it, the round table.
That's right. That's
Yeah,
right. Well, the Think Global Forum is actually
the forum.
behind me, the branding for it.
Right.
It's an interesting organization that we set up about 7 or 8 years ago now. And it was really set up as an international think tank for people to come together to talk about business opportunities and challenges in an international context. It's focused around business, content, language, reaching those international audiences. And it's typically done in very nice, large hotels around the world, major cities typically. Started off in the US, moved it across to Europe. Haven't been out in your neck of the woods yet, but I suppose
Oh,
Asia Pac
wait.
is very much on the radar.
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, it really is a great session. If you think of it like a conference, you know, speakers on stage, filming it, international speakers, etc., networking over food and that kind of activity. I'm sure we're all familiar with those sort of. Maybe we're getting back into in-person events now. Maybe we haven't been doing them as often as we had
Sounds
in
like
the
my
past.
kind of party, Simon.
Yeah, and
Drink
out
some
of
food
that
and
came
people.
something called the Think Global Awards. So we kind of spun out this sister brand about 6 years ago, because we're now entering our 6th year of the Think Global Awards. So you were very much a keynote guest speaker at one of our Think Global Forum roundtable sessions, and we discussed strategy storming there. So that's out. So if people want to check that out, they can have a look at Think Global Forum on YouTube or on the web, and we're pretty easy to find. But and you've also been a guest on the podcast, which is a really, really great episode. So yeah, it's been great to catch up there, and of course here today.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's always wonderful talking with you, Simon. I appreciate your insights into, the marketing world and the strategy world as well, and seeing how we can, compare notes type thing. So that's kind of where I'd love to kind of talk about it is, I guess one of the themes that we have talked about a lot today is about understanding those signals in the marketplace that we're in. And I guess there's probably a couple levels here that we can talk about, but where do you find your signals? How do you find your signals, and what do you ultimately do with them to be able to help direct your strategy?
Maybe I'll answer the last sort of bit first in terms of directing the strategy. I suppose it's twofold. A lot of the brands and the organizations that we work with are looking for two things. Number one, they're looking for us to execute on strategies and plans that they already have. But in a lot of cases, they're actually looking to be guided, advised, led, and to make sure that they're slightly ahead of the curve or the competition. When it comes to international strategy, however, there's lots and lots of input. Some of the activities that I mentioned earlier that you're aware of, Doyle, certainly help in terms of being able to speak directly with people, individuals, and global organizations. And I suppose I feel very fortunate because, as well as having that local in-country opportunity, I have this international reach, which I know some people may not have. But it is good when 1 minute you could be talking to somebody that's been sitting on the board of directors at one of the world's largest international hotel and hospitality businesses, for example. But then at the next table, I'm sitting and speaking to somebody who is a disruptor, who's very well funded from VCs or hedge funds coming out of Silicon Valley, who maybe is not an international brand today, but is going global and looking to reach international markets. And that's really where it comes into well, are they English speaking international markets or are they not? What's the culture like? How do we deliver our brand message? How do we take this brand or this entity that we are and extrapolate that out into these new international markets? And maybe that's not as straightforward as we thought it was in order to get traction, to make a good return on our investment. And how do we carry that culture of the company through, yet interact with people in their own local towns, cities, countries, cultures, languages, which is so important to get right as whether you're a small business, a medium business, or a big global brand. So I'm very fortunate to have lots of inputs to that. I'm very in touch with and very privileged to be in touch with a lot of the biggest brands in the world. If you think about the clothes that you wear, the activities you do on your smartphone, and whether you're flying or staying somewhere, all those kind of brands that we all know, that we all use, we work with quite extensively behind the scenes. And some of those companies, without going into names, have very smart people working at them. And I know some of them come in for a little bit of challenge and some of them get praise, and it depends on the news cycle and what's happening in various international markets. But it is a very privileged position to be able to be working with those brands and organizations who are looking to do new, innovative things. They don't always get it right, by the way. And sometimes we have to push back a little bit and say, well, actually, you need to think about that maybe slightly differently. Because it isn't, as you well know, Doyle, it isn't a one-size-fits-all approach when it comes to strategy, particularly in an international context. So I hope that helps.
Yeah, no, for sure. And how do you kind of, you're obviously talking very high level strategy with the larger brands. So
Yeah.
how do you kind of articulate something that's not just kind of, for lack of a better word, fluff, right? Because at that level, it's pretty, it can be very high level. It's not necessarily, tactical. So how do you kind of convert that? How do you bridge that between, okay, here's an idea, let's run with it, kind of thing, to
Yeah,
the
and
execution side?
it's a great question because just because it's a large organization, it doesn't mean it doesn't have to be very specific and demonstrate a real return on the investment of the strategy. Sometimes it can be more tricky because when you're trying to get an organization to go down a new strategic path, it's quite complex. It's the oil tanker conversation. It's a lot harder to turn than it is when you're driving something small or paddling your own boat, for example. So it isn't necessarily not detailed or granular, but making sure that ultimately it comes down to people, and it comes down to engagement, and it comes down to, is our message actually being heard and received by the people, the consumers, or the companies that we want to influence, persuade, build community with, show our diversity, our sustainability, our investments, or our products and services, of course. So I think the scale of it really, whether we're talking to that sort of, smaller entity that's going global, or the large company who's been around for 100 years, who ships international, services, I think the ultimate goal is the same. It's, how do I connect with the consumer at the end of the food chain? And am I actually making that clear? Is it understood? And are people actually engaging with my brand? Now, that's really sort of doesn't really matter what scale you are, because some brands, big brands, you may not use at all. And that's because they're not connecting with you. They're not engaging with you. It's not motivating you to buy, to purchase, or to engage with their brand. Or it may be a purposeful decision on behalf of that company, organization, or brand that you're not their core audience. So of course it's not reaching you. So that gets quite scientific. I suppose the last thing I would say on that question, Doyle, is that just because something works in one particular area doesn't mean it will work somewhere else. And how things are perceived, whether if you talk about Asian markets compared to, say, European markets, or, people in the US compared to people in Australia or New Zealand or wherever, you think that it's the same. Now, people have similar traits, and you can get into personality traits, and you can get into archetypes, but the psychology and the meaning of something when it is received by a person can be very, very different. So even though the strategy on paper looks good, you need to really think past okay, well, we can just replicate this strategy elsewhere. It doesn't always work like that. And sometimes you need to have very specific plans and approaches and almost tailor your strategy to that particular audience or country or segment of people that you're trying to reach. And you can't also broad stroke that and say, well, it's these people in this country, let's do it this way. No, it's about the breakup of those people, the makeup of those people, the different segments of those people, and what and how and when you communicate to them. So it gets quite complex quite quickly. Unfortunately, that's why businesses like the ones I mentioned earlier exist, because we can help companies through that, because we have an awful lot of international experience. Being in a company that's been going for 25 years kind of helps a little bit, because we know what we're doing at this stage.
So it
can be very, very difficult. Sorry, Doyle, just to finish that point, it can be very difficult for a company who's trying to expand internationally who maybe speak their mother tongue native language and are trying to grow their international products or services in a complex, busy world with a 24-hour, ever-changing, rapid news cycle. It's not as easy as people think.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It's easy to talk, and it's easy to put it on a PowerPoint or a report or that sort of thing. So one of the key ingredients there was you're simplifying. Essentially what you're saying is you simplify their strategies so that they're easy to execute and that sort of thing. Is that correct?
Yeah, well,
To an
simplify
extent?
and break it down into component parts that are easily understandable.
Yeah.
But to basically take, say, the assets of a company. Now, when we say the content assets of a company, for example, today we're on video, you're live streaming this event, but people will also watch it on replay. That is a live event. It's a corporate asset for Strategystorming and Doyle Buehler and his organization. It's also becomes
you know my master plan.
yeah, but it also becomes repurposed content, right? And if you think
I've got a year of podcast all canned together in one day.
But if I just knock that up and we talk about some of the world's biggest brands, whether they're consumer brands or B2B brands, they have millions of pieces of content going out all the time around the world to lots of different international markets. You think about social media, user-generated content, corporate communications, advertising. There's so much when it comes to the written word, audio, and video content. So although we're simplifying how you need to approach it, we're also applying international expertise to say, okay, here's what we recommend you do, but based on your content and how you're going to get that content into the right frame so it is correctly received for your brand and for the end user, that's where a little bit of the expertise comes in. So it's simplification to a point, but it's an absolute specific advisory type role where we can actually take that content and turn it into content that is either trans-created, repurposed, repackaged, or made culturally appropriate for new audiences.
It's still rigorous.
Yeah.
Can I step in, Doyle, for a moment?
Yeah, please. Yeah, go ahead.
For these businesses who are trying to reach a global market, if I'm hearing you and understanding you correctly, Simon, by the way, I'm a big fan. Is it not important not only to understand how your product or service is going to be received in that new culture, but how you communicate? Because if their language or their meaning, their definition of certain terms and terminology in describing what you do, don't we have to be somewhat careful about understanding what their culture is meaning and what they are seeing as important versus what we're trying to spew out? You don't want to offend, and you don't want to overstep and eliminate or just end up ruining your brand because you're not communicating properly. But isn't it wise to get a team together if you're going to do that and have somebody who's very diversified and very understanding of certain cultures and their language and their terminologies?
Yeah, you're spot on, because what you're talking about there really is you get into if you take it down a level, you get into people who are good at translation, linguistic experts, localization experts. You get into people that can take the cultural nuances of language and make sure that it is appropriately understood. And something that you would say in one country or jurisdiction is not the same. It's not interpreted the same due to beliefs, culture, everything, language, the term, a phrase. When people search on Google, if you search for something in Australia, the way you would search for it in Germany would be different. The sentence structure would be different if you just take the language translation out of it. But the way you think and the way you search for things is very different. If you think about the next generation coming through, they're also using voice activated and touch screens. We all know people have had iPads for years and glass phones where we all swipe up and down all day long. But a younger generation coming through, he's very used to talking to Alexa devices, or whatever the speaker that they're deciding to use, or the AI that they're deciding to talk to. So for future retail conversations, or for future purchases, are we searching using the written, is your brain communicating in a certain language, a phrase on a keyboard, or is there a generation coming through that would just say, hey Google, or hey Siri, or whatever, and ask for something, because they will be literally engaging with an AI at the first level of brand interaction. But your point is very spot on, because without that linguistic expertise, brands can find themselves in hot water very, very quickly. And there's many case studies around the world of brands who've put a foot wrong at the moment, and I won't go into it here, but some things have been said by a certain international rapper stroke, cultural expert, that is, causing absolute chaos. And I'm certainly not condoning the messages that have been said by any stretch of the imagination, but the brand reputational damage when something goes wrong, that's probably a bad example, because, there's been things said there that maybe are completely inappropriate. But brands can do things with the best intent and put out corporate messaging, and then suddenly realize after the event that hasn't gone down well in that culture or that country. And that's really when it comes into the strategy. And that's why I love strategy storming so much, just to bring it back on topic here. Yeah. Strategy storming, to me, it's about this expedition. It's about making sure you're preparing for the journey, making sure you've thought through the various angles or sides of the shape that Doyle has there, that you've actually spent a little bit of time planning the strategy. And Doyle, you may recall a conversation we had recently with Frank Hannigan from a company called Strategy Crowd. And he was saying your operational excellence is really what pays the salaries, but it is your strategy that pays the pensions. And I think if you can spend a bit more time and apply the strategy storming type approach, where you're preparing for this expedition meticulously, I think it pays back a lot faster, even though you've got to put a bit of work in up front. So I hope that answers your question.
It's perfect. I couldn't have said it. Well, you did say it better than I did. Yeah,
you're very kind, but it's a great question. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, no, thanks, BJ.
The strategy formation of anything, whether you're reinventing, rejuvenating. Those are the new things that are current today, and that's what we need to be including, whether you're, particularly if you're planning on sustainability in your business in the next few years.
Yeah, we can't really sacrifice. I mean, there's that constant battle and balance between today and tomorrow, right? And yeah, how you phrased it as well, Simon, is really important. You can't sacrifice tomorrow for today, or today for tomorrow. You kind of have to put this into a balance. And that's one of the shapes I showed during the Think Global Forum, was this becomes a fulcrum, right? These triangles, it's figuratively and literally a fulcrum. So you can actually balance things with this. And these are each of the elements that we need to be able to place, strategically, and put some thought behind it, so that we can see that this is actually how this piece fits together, and what we can actually do with it. So we're balancing today and tomorrow, today versus tomorrow, but yet we need to create that fulcrum that allows us to do that. We can't just say, oh, we're balancing today and tomorrow. It's like, yeah, so what? How are you actually doing that? And that's where this model really kind of gets its strength from, is that we can see that, okay, well, it's today and tomorrow, that's the balance, but we have to look at, the different parts of the elements here that actually work together. Simon, we're just waiting on the Rob Tyrie, was going to join us at 1:30. So did you need to split or take off, or do you want to hang around a bit?
Do you know what? If you've got a minute, I can just go through the Think Global Awards.
Please. Yeah, sure.
If that helps, Doyle. But if
no, absolutely. Please, let's do that.
I think it's a nice sort of segue into what the Think Global Awards are, because I mentioned it earlier, and I'm very proud of the fact that we've been able to run this international awards program for 6 years now. When we started off, if I'm totally honest, 6 years ago, we weren't sure whether a Think Global Awards program was going to work at all. And we were kind of learning how to do awards. But now, 5 awards in, now in our 6th year, we've got the software in place, people can apply online, etc. The other thing I'm really proud of is that it's completely free to enter. Pre-pandemic, we did host award ceremonies both in the US and Europe, where people came in person. Obviously, during the pandemic, they all had to move online. But basically what it is, it's a way of recognizing people that are thinking maybe internationally or globally about their business or their industry. And just to bring it back to who enters this, it's for individuals, it's for the smallest solo entrepreneur or person who's just with a startup entity. It also caters for nonprofits and community organizations. And they all, of course, caters for like language industry people and larger brands that we've talked about here a little bit. We have 10 categories this year. It's a little bit less than the year before. We had 16 categories the year before that. It's only 10 categories this year, and they include technology and entertainment, language, life sciences, education and e-learning, a startup section, communities and nonprofits, as I mentioned, a professional services category, and then we have a category for travel, transport, and hospitality, which is like a group category, marketing, and we finish off with retail and e-commerce. In order to do all this, the final thing I'd say is I'm very grateful that for 6 years running now, we've had a different judging panel every year. We have over 20 judges involved this year from many of the world's international companies. But if you want to see all the prior winners, who's won each year, if you want to see the judging panel from each year, or you would like to enter, because they're currently open for entry, and it's completely 100% free to enter. If brands or individuals listening or watching this, either live or on replay, just go to thinkglobalawards.com. It's pretty straightforward. You can enter directly from the website. So I hope that's of interest to people watching, Doyle. And for anybody who's interested in strategy storming, getting a little bit of recognition for your activities, whether you're a small startup or a large business, I think is always good. Excellent. So we're very proud of the awards.
Yeah, no, for sure. The caliber of the businesses. I had the fortunate opportunity last year to be able to judge. So I really appreciate that, Simon. And yeah, some of the amazing companies and people that have been involved over the years.
We've had global brands like Vodafone. We've had new companies like Polestar, a big EV play now in terms of electric vehicles. We've had government organizations like Visit Sweden that have won before. We've companies like ServiceNow or an international player. But the website, you can literally go through year by year and see whether it's a new technology company that is doing something with IoT, Internet of Things, or artificial intelligence. We've had people doing things with voice AI for children. We've had large, massive manufacturing companies like Nippon Steel. Tesla won an award many years ago for when, I don't know if you remember, they brought out the roof tiles that were solar powered. They won an award for that, and I know they do the battery charging packs now for homes and businesses outside of their vehicle business, for example. So we've had many interesting brands, through to Greenpeace or Rotary International, Lonely Planet. Everybody knows that brand, I think. So there's many there. You can check them all out.
Is there a products category? Like
in terms of the categories initially kicked out in terms of industry types in the very first year, but now, as I say, it's things like technology and entertainment, life sciences, education, startup, community, marketing, retail, and e-commerce. So what we find is people that are promoting a product or a service, they typically pick whether they're startup, large business, non-profit, whether they're in the technology sector, whether they're marketing or whatever. So we did sort of combine some of the categories this year, because last year we felt 16 was probably a bit more, and we just kept growing the categories each year. But we're trying to distill the categories down into the ones that people were really interested in, and we try and maybe add 1 or 2 new categories each year. But at this stage, the judging panel has had to grow each year. So without the 20 judges, we just couldn't do this, because we literally have people entering from all parts of the world, from Dubai to Dublin to Dusseldorf to Denmark. I mean, it comes in from all over the world. It's incredible to see people that are applying for the Think Global Awards. And I think because it's been going now for 6 years, it's a very credible international awards program, and people are very proud to win these awards. So we're looking forward to doing it again this year. And we've got new Think Global forums. Like, we're off to Berlin now for an in-person conference next month in Berlin, and we're also doing some more Think Global Forum roundtables that you mentioned earlier. So yeah, thanks for allowing me to share some details about that.
Yeah, no, it's all really good. Thank you for taking the time to share those, Simon. So hopefully I'll put the link in the live stream or the replay video as well for the awards and that sort of thing. So
my pleasure, Doyle. It's been great to be part of this strategy storming event. I'm really delighted to
thank you. Yeah. No, it's been quite the experience today. So really quite excited about the people I've spoken with today and the audiences here on Zoom as well as on the live streams as well. So it's been pretty phenomenal. So I want to thank you for joining in. And if you want to stick around, you're more than welcome to. If you needed to get on to other business, that's fine too. I messaged Rob a message, and I'm not sure if he's going to be able to respond, but I'll take it over from here and give your voice a break, and I'll just go over some of the things, and then we'll reset and go back for the sessions on the hour as well.
All right. Thank you, Doyle. My pleasure. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Simon. Excellent. So I'm going to hopefully we'll get Rob Tyrie to come join us for the next 20 minutes or 15 minutes or so. But in the meantime, I'll actually I've got a little bit more time here. I can go into some of the models in a little bit more detail as well. So I'm just going to add this to the spotlight. This is my magic strategy storming cam. If you can figure out how I set this up, please let me know, and you might be able to win a prize. But it allows me to be able to show you exactly what I'm talking about, so that I'm not just talking into the air or trying to show you something that kind of disappears into it keeps my hand. My hand doesn't disappear in the background, which is cool. So anyway, thank you so much for joining me. We just had Simon Hodgkins, who's been an amazing speaker. Him and I have done a lot of stuff together over the last little while as well, which has been just great to see as well. So we're way down at the end here. So Rob, hopefully if you're there, if you're listening, if you're watching, please feel free to join. I sent a message on LinkedIn that you can hopefully connect to. But if not, that's totally cool. We'll do it again very, very soon as well. Have you on a special episode as well. So coming up at the hour, we've got Tony Flath. He's back here. Vikash Singh is coming in from India, and Joe Bellissimo is going to join us from Bali in Indonesia as well. So, and that'll be actually the last session. I can't believe it. It's been such an amazing day and very cool day being able to talk with all of these 24, 25, 26, 27 people throughout the day. Oh, there he is. Should I let him wait in the waiting room, or should I let him in? No, I'll let him in. Rob is going to be joining us in just a few seconds here. So I'm just going to finish up. So who's up next? We talked with Simon, like I said, and Rob is just joining us now. And after Rob is done, we'll get into the last session of the day. And I said this before throughout the whole day. One of the coolest things about this, and Andrew, I got to give Andrew Griffiths kudos here, because he said he knows he's having a great day when he can look at his calendar and smile. And if you've been watching a few of these, you've probably heard me say that more than once, but that's kind of what made this quite unique, is being able to see it and say, look, we've actually talked with all these people since 9 a.m. this morning. So that's 12 hours for me, and we still got a little bit more, but it's been absolutely wonderful. And I really want to thank everybody who's joined me in this marathon as well. So it's all good to have you here. And Sir Rob, are you there? Oh, he was there. Oh, joining. Okay, it's taking a little bit. So, oh, where'd he go? There he is, Mr. Rob. Let me know when you're connected. I can see your name. So while Rob's connecting there, again, one of the models and one of the products that we have is the strategy canvas worksheet as well. And typically what that does is it allows us to see strategy a little bit differently. And I think that that's one of the key ingredients that we spoke of is how do we actually simplify that? There he is. Ladies and gentlemen, Rob Tyrie. Oh, you can't hear me? All the way from Toronto, Ontario, Canada.
Hey,
there he
sorry
is.
about that. I thought I was at 9.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. Don't worry.
And that's my bad. I hope it's been going very, very well. I saw some of the things last night.
Yeah. No, it's been going pretty good. So we're in one of the last sessions here. So thank you so much, Rob, for joining in and yeah, no worries that yeah, scheduling it's been pretty good. Let's just leave it at that. So
Please,
thanks for joining us in this. And really ultimately I want to talk to you, I mean, about strategy and how we actually see it and that sort of thing. So honestly, we're just going to have a heart-to-heart gentleman's conversation as well. So nothing too complex. You don't have to do a presentation yet, right? Unless you wanted to.
I have something prepped though.
You do? Do you have something prepped?
Of course.
Oh, all right. Well, let's dig in. So maybe just tell us a little bit about yourself, Rob, and then let's dig in.
Absolutely. My name is Rob Tyrie. I am a serial entrepreneur. That's, I guess, the easiest way to explain myself. I have run and grown a number of businesses in my career. I started as a computer scientist, programmer, COBOL jockey, and government programming and accounting systems, massive scale. And so for the last 40 years, and it goes back to before I started professionally, I've been writing programs and designing systems for large scale organizations in different ways, shapes, and forms. The largest companies I've ever worked for are Siebel, that's Oracle, and Salesforce, where I was the global lead of insurance back in 2013. And I went on from there to grow and build out one of the largest multi-sided platforms for property and casualty insurance with customers like Farmers and Liberty and Progressive, so massive scaled interoperation of selling insurance online in a very, very futuristic fashion. So I'm also a partner of Doyle's in the Gray Swan Guild. I'm one of the co-founders of the Gray Swan Guild. That's a think tank and a do tank, all virtual. That's how Doyle and I met. And what I have the pleasure of is thinking with people just like you and just like Doyle every day of the week in the Gray Swan Guild. It's something I do as a hobby and volunteer work, but it's very specialized. It's very professional. I treat it as my lab. So I always wanted to work in a think tank. I am very scientific and lab oriented. When I introduce myself a lot, I just tell people I'm a computer scientist. I think like a scientist. I make programs. I've designed my life with algorithms. I'm that guy who's got 4 kids. And if there's a science fair project, I'm all in. Let me make volcanoes. Let me make terrariums. Let me make little tiny machines that fly, even balloon animals. I also juggle, Doyle.
I didn't know that. Actually, no, I think you did juggle one time you showed me, which is pretty cool. I've never developed that skill. I was just gonna say, Rob, like you've seen, because I know you've seen it. It's the Easy Strategy Lab coat, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I saw it right away.
Yeah.
And, I said, Doyle, who's got 007? And then I want Q.
Yeah, so this is activewear for creative strategists. So when we think we're having to do important things, why did you put on your lab coat there, Rob? because it's
Oh, I
something
think-
you had to do that was very important. So we want to change how we actually what we wear. So Strategy has a fashion line now.
I had the grace of doing a job, and I was reviewing some security for this little company called HP.
A little
it's the
company.
equipment side. You may have heard of them. They make
Yeah,
printers.
yeah.
So I got invited to their primary research lab, which is really, really exciting for a guy like me. I'm a geek, and they had all their new printers. They have printers that are available today. If you've got a spare $30,000 that print paper at 10 kilometers an hour. 10 kilometers an hour. So
they
that's
print paper at 10 kilometers an hour. I can't even imagine that. What would that look like?
What it looks like is magic, Doyle. It looks like magic because it shoots out of the printer as if it appears. Like that's really, really fast. And I'll print a poster like you put on your wall. Like, those Pink Floyd posters you have on your wall?
Yeah.
Like that.
Okay.
In like, it seems like a second, and you see it and you're delighted. So in that lab, when you go downstairs and see what they're doing, they're wearing white coats because they're producing in science with intention, and they literally drop off their swag and stuff, and they put on white coats. And I was like, oh, it's true. You got to think like a scientist. I think one of my favorite psychologists, one of my favorite books. I'm a book guy. This is my desk right now.
Yeah.
I'm a book guy. I set some stuff up because I thought we would talk about strategy, and you'd ask me questions. So Adam Grant wrote this book called Think Again, and it's first of all, it's one of the best books I've read, the best first chapters I've read in any business book ever. It's beautiful. It's designed beautifully. Second of all, he just does a model where he just encourages people to think again, and reflect and think like a scientist. So it's really turned into a motive because it's so clearly described, and it leans into things that I've built across 45 years of thinking.
Yeah.
All about way back to my high school years. My favorite topic in high school, Doyle, my favorite
Chemistry?
class, history.
French.
I had a teacher named Mr. Cox, who was a prof who came down to teach at the high school level, and he used to give me 100% all the time. And I don't know why, because I just thought I'm just a regular guy, right? And I'm a geek, and I'm a computer scientist. I'm also a sports guy. I was a jock. I played a lot of hockey and soccer, but I loved history, and I loved telling stories. So all my essays were like, study stuff, then write stories about interesting stuff. And it all stuck. So I still remember specific classes way back when in high school about exactly what I did in the essays I wrote. I wrote an essay about Alexander the Great. And I've never forgotten that. And I want to write that book again with you.
Nice. Well, yeah, let's do that.
So this is my desk, Doyle. You have any questions?
Well, I thought you said you were prepared. You're going to prepare something for us.
Yeah. Did you see this? Can you see my screen?
No. Oh, sorry. I wasn't even looking. I wasn't paying attention. That's my fault.
Yeah. Tony, can you see my screen?
There it is.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Big data and
Tony's here.
analytics. Sorry. It kind of goes hiding.
Yeah.
I've got
No
so many
problem.
screens up here.
Definitely.
Thanks, Tony.
Yeah, cool, man.
Let's do it.
This is my front room, and this is where I think.
Yeah. I love it.
So I believe in the Stoics. So I've got my skull is up there because memento mori, exactly. If you're going to be thinking, you should be dry and objective and apply things. And remember that we are all here for a very short time. You too shall come to this, as my friend Shakespeare used to say. So I keep it close by.
Yeah. Exactly. Where's mine?
There's a
I've been following this stoic mindset, right? And I've been even
it's
telling Doyle,
yeah.
right? I keep holding up this book whenever I hit a challenge, right? If I hit a challenge, break through. And I love big data and analytics. This is awesome.
Yeah.
There's a fold in, Tony. There's a fold in. And then I've got on the thinking terms of like when I was going to my library, I said, okay, well, what do I use when I want to be inspired about strategy? First of all, Henry Mintzberg wrote a seminal article back in mid 90s. He's a curmudgeon, and he's a thoughtful guy, but he defines strategy as a plan, some sort of consciously intended course of action, a guideline, a set of guidelines to deal with a situation. By definition, strategies have two essential characteristics. They're made in advance of actions to which they apply, and they are developed consciously and purposefully.
So true. So true.
Like, this definition is so rich, right? So when I'm in a room and someone says, well, I don't like strategy,
And
it's because they don't think like this. Go ahead.
yeah, no, I was gonna say, how did you know that off the top of your head?
Which part?
That whole last little spiel.
I'm reading it off my slides.
Oh, okay.
Oh, nice. You
What?
pulled it off just like you pulled it right out of thin air. It's great. But it's
Oh my
true.
goodness,
It's true.
Rob, you're
And
like the master.
this resonates so well for me. And I told Doyle, I've been so excited about this whole, launch and everything else and getting to work with him and everything. But like, my path to technology, I'm listening to your path, right? And me and Doyle with this lab coat was just such such a lovely thing to focus on. But like, I was telling Doyle when I was younger, my subjects that I focused on first were recess, football, and rugby, right? That's
Nice.
where I focused on, right?
That's
and
right.
I used to see this one kid on his Tandy computer, and I'd be like, damn that nerd on the
You're such
computer
a
all the
nerd.
time. Why don't you get off? Now he's doing something in music stuff. He's been doing it for years. He's doing great. And I came in a little later to the technology, not much, right? Like, I had a 286 that I built to a 386 and
Nice.
added memory and all that stuff and figured out all this stuff. I figured from physical to virtual, all these different things. But the reason I mentioned something is this slide resonates with me. So I got interested in technology, first got into cloud in HR systems, and more got into big data analytics. And then I met Bill Schmarzo, the dean of big data, right? He is just a phenomenal guy. I've learned so much from him, right? And I was doing a little bit with technology sales, cybersecurity. I learned a little bit more about AI and stuff, right? And got more interested in it. And through the pandemic, I actually did a certificate from MIT in AI. And one thing that resonates with me is, yeah, you got to be a scientist, but you also got to be a human, right? It's about putting those two things together. And it really resonates through all of these great presentations. And I was having coffee or first brushing my teeth, having coffee while I was listening to Timothy Hughes this morning, right? But no, this is fantastic. And sorry to cut you off. Keep going.
No problem, Tony. It's great. We're birds of a feather, right? So I'm all overlapped. So I love art. So right now I'm doing some reading of Leonardo da Vinci, and I thought I knew a lot about Leonardo da Vinci, right? Famous artist, Mona Lisa, flying machines. I never finished any paintings, that
Easy
kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
And along this journey, especially in the last 3 years, I've been trying to reframe the way I think and then summarize the way I develop ideas so I can create faster. So one of the techniques I do is go back to the Stoics, go back to the philosophers, and I've been learning more about physics. So that led me to, you think about physics and you bump into Leonardo, he's actually an inventor, right?
Oh, absolutely.
But he wasn't a mathematician. This is one of the things I learned. He literally has math mistakes in his notebooks. And it's like, don't carry the one mistakes. He couldn't do algebra because Pacioli, the father of accounting in Italy, tried to teach him accounting. They were both at court. They were both working for
damn linear algebra. I know what you mean. Yeah.
So he was trying to teach him, and there's letters from him to Da Vinci. He's like, hey, listen, Leonardo, it's just math. It's just math. He's like, let me draw it out. So he would draw things with the Euclidean geometry like a scientist would. So anyway, I'm looking at Leonardo and reading about him, and I'm like, wow, it's just evolving that physics and art, science and art, they're two together. There's no true scientist that doesn't think artistically, even if they don't realize it. Even if they're writing pages and pages of math, math is just a language. A language is something that we speak. It just happens to be numbers and it's formal, but there really is a close connection. And you remind me also of Edward Wilson's work on consilience. And he writes a great book, and it's in the first couple of chapters where he challenges all of science to combine back with art. He feels that the splitting
there's a word for that.
Yeah,
that's actually what's called artfulness, and I didn't know this before. That's the combination of art and science and balancing those two. And honestly, I believe that this is what strategy storming is we're taking some of the pieces of the art, we're taking some of the signs, we're taking the divergent, we're taking the convergent, and we're actually putting these together with tools and techniques and tactics as well, ultimately, fundamentally, to be able to do that. And to me, that's kind of what connects this language of strategy to something that we can actually use. And instead of just being this fancy report that you produce and you set up and takes, a team of 20, 6 months to be able to deliver, and then gets stuck on a bookshelf and gets lost forever. Like, let's make it something that you can touch and see and feel. And to me, that's where we can actually put some of this art back into that.
Oh yeah,
Absolutely.
And then with art comes history. So back to my desktop, I've got I've got some Jared Diamond up here. Upheaval is a fantastic book, and he actually took a lens of psychology that he learned from his partner, and she was studying to be either a psychologist or a nursing psychiatrist. I can't exactly remember, but she was medical. So he was learning how she learned, and he applies a psychological frame on moments of upheaval. And I would love to see people use his frame of psychology and then storytelling, because Jared Diamond is one of the best historic storytellers. MacArthur Grant, Genius Grant, was a biologist who writes about history. I thought he was a historian, but he's a biologist who studied the gallbladders of birds. But his frame, you could take his frame and apply it against a strategic problem that you're facing for one of your clients in your method. And that's mixing in psychology, history, and storytelling, and then back to the bones of, hardcore strategy.
Yeah, oh, definitely. Sorry, Rob, just before you continue, I wanted to welcome Joe and Vikash as well. So we're just kind of doing a wrap-up session. So welcome, gentlemen. If you wanted to join in, Rob's kind of leading the way, and he's kind of talking us through a lot of stuff. So feel free to jump in at any time. There wasn't anything sort of formal. It was more just kind of like talking and conversing about this. So thanks.
Might
for
I
joining
say,
us,
Doyle, way for keeping it through the night, man. Like, I was on pretty late last night, still watching, right? And then, I hit some Z's and, was up with the toothbrush, still listening to stuff this morning, right?
Nice.
And I'm thinking, geez, listen to this guy go.
Doyle
like,
keeps just
great.
going. He's like the
He's
Energizer
like
Bunny.
He swears that with the hair, though, you'd have that. You'd be the Energized Bunny with the slick hair and the shades.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, I can put it up in a man bun now if you guys.
Hey, no man buns, but hey, up to you. Yeah.
Excellent. So thanks, Joe, and appreciate Vikesh as well for jumping in. So yeah, please continue, Rob.
No problem. I don't know if you can see my screen, Doyle, but I've got.
Well, it hasn't moved though, and is that me? It just says big data plus
It's just
analytics.
big data analytics, but isn't that a good thing to resonate in your mind, because there is so much big data and analytics?
I'm sorry. Let me. I'm going to stop the share. I'm going to try again. Oh my goodness! There we go. So I'm talking about my desktop and all this wild stuff.
Oh, sweet.
Okay, now that makes sense.
I love the skull. Nice.
Look at all those tabs you're using, though, Rob. Come on, what's up with that?
And that's the fact that Arstone Advisory administers and gives strategy advice to 8 different companies, 2 different funds. So this is part of my research. So I keep a lot of tabs open. But now with the Google Chrome feature, where you can just grab your tabs and show them all. I guess I can't do that right now. You can show them all like that. It keeps me organized. You gotta even search for things. But yeah, lots of tabs in my life. That's kind of my brain works that way too. But this is my desktop that I was speaking of. And when I was talking about Jared Diamond and Guns, Germs, and Steel and Mixed with Collapse, these are really good informative items. And then mixing art in, I've got the 1984 sitting out there. And I've got one of my models that I'm working on, which is a creator model. But when I was thinking about strategy, I just went to my library and said, okay, well, what's inspiring me about what Doyle does and how he's thinking? I just wanted to mix in some things for you guys.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, no, that's good.
And it's so true about mixing art in. It's like the whole idea of storyboarding or, putting it out there into I like to do little caricatures and, kind of see the flow of where things go, and it kind of resonates more with you, right? Like it's adding those two together. There's been studies on this with empathetic people that work in conjunction with AI have more success with AI projects than, more people that don't have that same kind of cognitive capability. So it's really interesting to see science and art really come together, right?
Well, I like it. So I did put together some thoughts on strategy. That was ripping on some of the things I heard last night and some of your writing.
Yeah.
So if you see these, I'm always a big fan, and I've learned so much about storytelling across my career. Part of my job, although I was a technologist, was bringing products to market, and especially learning when I was at Salesforce, learning that telling the story is the most important part about technological change. The validity of what you're doing in computer science, whether it works or not, the science of it is important. But also, well, if you're meeting someone for 30 minutes or 45 minutes or across months in snippets, well, what is the story? What is the story arc? And it must be designed. When we look at those beautiful books, the reason I think they're beautiful and the reason I think that they're thought bombs is they're designed.
They are, yeah. I was just going to say that.
Random, and it only happens once in a while. Like Jack Kerouac only happens once in a while. Like On the Road, a random set of thinking. And even then, in the backstory, when you study Kerouac, it was designed.
He designed around that style, right?
Yeah. The beat, right? Just like riff on everything. It's all jazz. We make it up. Yeah, but you'd be a great jazz artist. It takes you a long time to get to that level of performance.
Yeah.
So beginning with the end in mind, that I stole, of course, from Stephen Covey.
Yeah.
You don't know where you're at the end of it. So I know that if I'm doing strategy, Rob, help us do strategy. Help us create something. Well, what are we creating? What do you think the end is? I can go for giving the end and just have just a rough sketch. And then I can go back and say, okay, these are some steps that'll work. And what I want to underline to everybody, and this is from Mintzberg, strategy is not planning. Strategy is strategy. It's its own thing. It emerges. It's got a separate noun.
Yeah.
How you define it, like in Mintzberg's definition I did earlier, it's all mixed in dynamics, and the strategy unto itself has its own emergent properties, and it's mixed up. And that was big of Mintzberg. And my argument too is that when you get in a room full of planners and they want to plan and they follow a process or steps that are linear, okay, you're not going to get anything out of that.
Well, you might get something, but it's a linear solution for the linear perceived problem, right? It's no different, right? It's just people sitting down and writing a plan. And I know sometimes the terminology is, well, what's a strategic plan then? And I think we still have to kind of carry some of that language over. It's not the same thing. It's not planning. It is defiantly strategy, and we have to kind of see them differently because they're not the same. They're not linear.
And one thing that go ahead. So one thing that comes to mind right away when I see storytelling is I did a course on executive storytelling and how to present that and how to pitch that. And one of the things that really resonated with me, and Rob, it resonated when you were talking just about history and about these things that are fundamentally within us, right? Is they talked about when you're doing a presentation or when you're talking about something, and this works well in technology, right? Is you've got to show them. You got to show them like the caveman did with the cave paintings on the wall. They didn't just come home and explain a great quest where they took down a big beast, right? They painted it on the wall. The flames in the cave would shine off the whole thing. And they brought the whole everyone together to lean in and tell this story. I think it's the same thing with strategy. I think it's the same thing with where you're going with your company. Doyle's pushed me on this when we've had one-on-one sessions, right? Is, what's that next piece and what is it? Where are you in it, right? Like, where are you in this? And it's not just about following, words or ideas or something like that. It's about how you ingest your own story into that, right? To me, and this is so great. And sorry, John, or sorry, Rob, Rob, take it away. Yeah.
No, that's great. I like the comments, and I like the dynamics. I can see you're an acolyte of Doyle, as I am. And listening
Definitely.
into
Yeah.
we've got this big brain. I don't, and nobody in neuroscience really believes you've got two halves of a brain. You have a brain. Your brain does a lot of complicated things, but there's visual parts to it and there's language parts to it. The overlap is magic. When you're overlapping math and drawings and audio, we know that people's learning, if you give someone a picture, you give someone audio, you give someone text, they are 10, 20, 30 times more likely to remember your story or what you're telling or the information when you mix it in. So I'm always mixing in. Where is the drawing? Why is there a ball of string that's tangled up on this? That's to remind myself that, quantum physics exists. If you put a set of strings in a drawer, you walk around with a set of strings, they get tangled up, and it takes energy to untangle them. It's a property of the universe. Strategy is about untangling things. That's why that drawing is there, and help you remember that. Creation should be self-organizing. Here's an interesting idea. Self-organization is a biological idea. All humans are self-organizing. Their systems are self-organizing. When it gets hot out, you sweat. When it gets cold out, you generate heat, and blood moves to the core of your body and moves away from your fingers. That's why your fingers gets cold. It's self-organizing so it can exist. That's called homeostasis. All creation, any plans or projects should have elements to them that are self-creating. So I think that when we do sessions together, Doyle, and we've got chat going, that's kind of a self-creating tool that if we use the chat to make notes together, we'll have notes that we can use to reflect on what we record here. That's an idea of self-organizing. I use Google tools all the time because by their essence, they're multi-user. I can share this deck with you guys right after. You can edit it if you want, or I set it up to edit. So that is a sense of self-organizing. At the end of this, if someone says, hey, where are your slides? Because I used Google Slides to create, but they're shareable, they're self-organizing. So I want that in all my techniques. Learn about physics, I've been yakking about that. You'll hear quantum physics from me all the time. Even like the devices that Doyle uses, that the tetrahedron.
The tetrahedron. Actually, just for recognition, Rob was the actual, I spoke about it earlier, about I had a friend who actually told me, hey, wait a sec, that's a tetrahedron. And that's actually Rob when we were talking about it, when I was taking him through the paces of the model.
That was just an idea, right? We're like shooting out ideas all the time. I'm looking at the beautiful model and it's flat, right? And I go like, Doyle, that's a tetrahedron. He's like, wait, what? And I like send him some notes, right? And all of a sudden the next picture, he's got it like full. It's like, wow, that he created something that just came out of my head, and I just linked it. And then, but the creation though, that make the sense and how you use it, that's all you, Doyle. Like exactly how you rotate it and how you get someone to build it. But I find it very exciting. Like I would take that tetrahedron, I'd build two of them, and I'd throw them like dice, and that would be my workshop.
Well, and it takes it off the paper. It takes it off just the one dimension, right? Like it gives that it gives that extra dimension to it, and it makes you think outside the box. It forces you to, right?
Well, that's a game, Rob, with the tetrahedral dice. I actually found some and playing with how can I create a game around developing strategy as well. So yeah,
well, I would map it onto like the Harvard case method, right? So you've got two design tetrahedrons with strategy elements that you like, your method, right?
Yeah.
Then I'd be in the class together and I'd have the case study, read a case about HP and their printing insecurity. And then I would throw the dice and say, okay, what are we working on? So you add in like this dimension, a third dimension of, okay, there are these strategy elements in 3 dimensions that are related.
Yeah.
The fourth dimension you just added is randomness, which is real.
Yeah.
Random things happen all the time. Strategies change. You're asked in a room, if you do this with 3 groups, they'll come back with 3 ideas formed by your strategy, injected with randomness, centered on a case study.
Nice.
That's a workshop.
Yeah. Well, let's make a game around that. Yeah. Because see, you can actually, if you look at the strategy storming cam, these are actually 5 of these tetrahedral dice that you can then play with. So so Doyle, think of like watch a video on Dungeons and Dragons, and then let's get on a call and get Tony and maybe a couple other swans. Swans are what we call our members of the Grey Swan Guild,
And let's kick around ideas in games, because games fundamental. Games change everything. Like, I'm a sports guy. I told you I was a jock. What I've learned sometimes, just like when
Well,
I'm
so is
working with a
Tony.
team-
Yeah.
Like,
He
it's
used
like,
to
I'm like,
he used to beat up nerds in high school.
like play your position. But I'm a football guy. So Vikash and Joe, I don't know if you watch a lot of soccer, but I'm a football guy. So when
I'm the other football. NFL. Yeah.
I'm gonna say Vikish is probably cricket.
So the most
Australia.
one of the most violent sports I've ever played is soccer. And when you're down the wing flying and you grease someone with your shoulder and you get a clean hit, I can hit someone so hard without getting a yellow card. If I time it right, I know the direction of the ball. I can see I know I've been trained to do this. I can knock them right off the pitch. Guy gets up.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone's screaming. The fans want me off the field. I've done it perfectly. That lesson I can teach in business. Now, not everyone likes sports metaphors, so I switch gears a little bit, but it's taught me a lot. Like, play your position. Like,
It is play your position.
Sports,
Yeah.
and that idea of play your position, I can do it in math, a math construct, because mathematicians understand formulas and there's logic to what they do. Philosophers, I can teach as well with philosophical metaphors. But man, sports is just fast. So learning about physics, building machines, like you're learning about physics right now, Doyle, because when you throw dice, the randomness of why those things always pop up, and they might always pop up 1 million times in a row. There's a multiverse universe that Doyle, Tony, and Rob are in a workshop, and you keep throwing those dice, and they always come up. But that's the multiverse. So what about physics? Read outside your area of expertise. Okay, around the table. What's the last book you read that's outside your area of expertise? Vikash, last book you read that's outside, or magazine. Joe, you're next.
Yeah, I mean, the only one comes to my mind is The Innovator's Dilemma. I was kind of rereading it. Yeah,
It's a
I was
great
rereading
book.
it because
Christensen
it's
is
always a good
fantastic.
refresher. Yeah.
Nice. Oh yeah, that one never goes out of style. I got taught that. I did a post-grad set of work in business in a special program, and that was our core product book, was Creighton Christensen. His last stuff is very good too. The Jobs to Be Done book that he wrote about luck.
We talked
very,
about
very
that
good
this
book.
morning. Jobs to be
Pardon
done.
me?
We talked about that this morning. Jobs to be done.
Yeah, it's on my
yeah.
shelf. What about you, Joe? What's the last book you read, or big website or podcast that's outside your expertise?
I'm just looking at my Audible, trying to figure out when's the last time I actually listened to one of the books that I bought. this is disturbing.
What's the next one?
I don't know. Look, I think what was interesting, one of the last books that I read that I thought was really interesting was what's the Greek stories? And it was that British guy narrated it.
Homer?
The myths.
The myths.
It's the guy who wrote about
Mythos.
Pardon me?
Mythos. Audible.
Mythos, yeah. It's on my shelf. It's on my to-read list.
Stephen Fry. Stephen Fry was the guy that narrated it. It's a beautiful
written book, right?
It was a while ago. It was a while ago, but it was really interesting. Because normally when I first got into reading, it was all audiobook, and started out with The One Thing. So The One Thing was the first book, and then it was things like Simon Sinek's first book, and then after that it was Jocko Willink and Leif Babin's Extreme Ownership. So it was like there's a bit of a theme here.
Those are great books.
So I smashed a lot of books like that, and then there was just like Mythos was like is it fiction? Technically, it's a retelling of stories that were stories. So if you read about stories that were fiction at the time, but were they fiction at the time? I don't know. Were there actual Greek gods?
They were about myths. They were about myths. I don't know if there was a Hydra or a Cyclops. There were good stories though that explained a lot of things back then. So that book was recommended to me, Doyle, by Sylvia and Anna Humilius Gamella from Sweden, and it's on my shelf and it's a must read. And guys, if you like the books that way, I recommend that you read Shonda Rhimes' new book called A Year of Yes. It's about her backstory on how she created Grey's Anatomy and Scandal and changed her life. It's very, very interesting and very, very different than my experience. I have a guilty secret.
What's
Grey's
that?
Anatomy.
Oh.
I've watched Grey's Anatomy twice. I
Do you-
watch
do you
it every
cry?
week. I watch it real time and I
Do you
talk
cry,
to people about
Rob?
it. No, it's not. They don't make me cry. They're like my friends. They're like my virtual friends.
What? Come on. Then how come it makes me cry when I'm watching Grace?
Well, I watched New Amsterdam, which is another medical procedural, and it's about, this is how I learned how to say, "How can I help?" from the lead. It's about a medical director who takes over a hospital in New York. I'm a big New York fan. My second city is New York after Toronto.
Love New York. Yeah, yeah.
New York. But that show makes me cry almost every episode of the first series, except for one episode. I'm sitting there, my stoic self. And they don't do it like Grey's Anatomy does it with when they put kids in it, right? I can't stand when kids get hurt. But it's the relationships and what happens in that show. And it's like, I consider myself a professional. I consider myself a very dry scientist, and I bring objectivity to the table. But here I am watching this beautiful art and these beautiful relationships about medical procedural. Like after these things, you feel like you can do the things the doctors do, although it's just a little slice, right? So it's very dry, and yet they can move you so much. And when I was a kid, I used to go to a theater with my parents. My mother all cried during like musical comedy. She would cry. I'm like, I looked at her and I would ask her, like, why are you crying? It's just a show. So now I don't know. I hope I've grown up. I hope I've changed. I hope something in my body has changed. I'm 58 years old. I hope it's changed, because when I see something beautiful like that, or about a relationship, or very sad or very happy, it's like, yeah, like a little happens. But yeah, New Amsterdam is your challenge, because if you try at some of the episodes of Grey's Anatomy, it's like, whoa, look out. Okay, so that's outside your expertise. Generative algorithms. So Doyle knows this about me. I am completely fascinated by AI. I have been since the 80s, literally. I did my first expert system. I did a implementation of Prolog in Smalltalk. I wrote it myself. It was an exercise to think about how to make an expert system in code. And I decided, like, hey, this stuff's not going to work. It'll never be maintainable. That was back in the 90s when I was exploring and writing code. So it's back though. So this algorithms like GPT-3, if you search on DALL-E, this is the one that's a generative algorithm that takes language and generates art from it.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Ethereum,
it's amazing.
It's just like and it does it, right? It just knows how to do it, and it's very, very fascinating. But those techniques, those algorithms, if you think about them, human beings can use the same algorithms. Train yourself, mixed language. I know artists that you can talk. You can give a string of, like, hey, paint me a picture of Doyle and Rob riding swans on a lake studying with philosophers. An artist can just, you give them that string, that's language, they'll do a cartoon of it.
Do it, yeah.
So it's possible. So these algorithms are important, and they help you shock the system because they're different. And if you use the technology, it'll surprise you. And I know that I am inspired by running these algorithms and seeing what text is created. So at the Grey Swan Guild, I've actually got publications that we've done together that are transparent experiments where I'm writing the prompt, I'm doing the editing, but the AI generative algorithm is writing the details. And right now, like last year, it was kind of clunky. This year, it's like, oh no, this is better than the interns that I have working.
Wow. And you know what?
Myself, oh, good.
One thing that I take from what you're talking about is, it surprised me when I did some more formal training on AI, is how much capabilities were already happening in the 80s, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like
Oh, yeah.
it really was just system-wise catching up to the capabilities of the deep learning and machine learning and the whole ability to carry out more transactionally, right? But and it's just so interesting. This is fantastic, man. Yeah.
Algorithms for machine learning were developed in the 50s. I met the person who invented back propagation, and he was at a conference, and it was in, I think it was in California or Barcelona. It's a conference called NeurIPS, and someone was presenting a new idea on deep learning, and they did not cite him. He got up. There was 500 people there, AI pros from around the world, suits like me. he got up and yelled at the guy on stage. And then the
Nice.
buzz in the room is like, I didn't know the guy. This is how I learned. I'm like, what the hell's going on here? Well, that's the guy the other guy's bad because he didn't refer to him.
Oh, really?
So the drama of all these scientists yelling at each other, and it's a long time, right? So when Google bought DeepMind, that ROI was science that had been developed for over 40 years. It was the pinnacle. They paid for itself, the purchase, and they bought DeepMind for like $4 billion. The ROI was done in the first year because they applied the problem, deep learning against the problem of managing heat, back to heat and homeostasis in their data centers. Paid for itself. That company was free.
Oh yeah, the
That company-
preventative
Wow.
maintenance, the efficiency management, it's amazing. Yeah.
And when you look at it, it's like, oh wow. And if there's not a lot of risk to doing that. It was complicated. It wasn't chaotic, but they just applied it. No one but Google to pay for something like that and make a guess like that because DeepMind pitched it. A bunch of Brits, neuroscientists working with computer scientists for love and honor. But that's been going a long time. So now we're applying it. It's like if you're all the people who see this, all the people on this call, take a look at these algorithms, try and apply them in your life. You're doing it every day, right? So these algorithms are being used to type the next word in your sentence. Ray Kurzweil has got this worked out. The Google translation. So when I was reading
voice recognition, huge. Yeah.
Voice and text recognition and translation, all the same generative technology.
Yeah, and they're actually using that.
So I'm reading the front cover of Pravda in Russian to get a sense of what propaganda is happening.
Translator is huge. Yeah.
Amazing. Anyway, so apply this, and then science. Well, we've already talked like think like a scientist, and then Doyle, did you see what I did on number 10 there?
I see that you repeated that. Yes, by design is at the beginning and end of strategy thinking. Which is
I'm like a fish with a 3-minute memory. I just keep repeating it, right?
And then we also begin with the end in mind.
Rob.
Everything I do is designed. Everything I do.
There you go.
Honestly, guys, I wrote this morning. While I was supposed to be here at 8:30, but I wrote it, then I highlighted it, then I reordered it. So it's a little algorithm that you can take away with you. And if you can't tell a story like this about this in your own frame of reference, this is a usable tool to start any program in any enterprise group. If I was leading a session about the next new insurance, like event insurance or hole-in-one golf insurance at some company that they make $1 billion a year doing this, it's a true story, I would start with this.
Yeah, no, it's very detailed and I love it. But did you notice where I have story, Rob, as part of this model right at the end, and that quadrant right there?
Okay.
So yeah, it's super important to be able to see that. It's not at the beginning, but actually depends how you fold it, but story becomes an integrated part of the beginning and the end.
Well, this one, back to like computer science geeky stuff, right? I think that the model you're building is recursive. So you can, on any element, you can add story, so if you fold it, you land on one side and then you tell a story about it, and you land another side, tell a story about it. You can reuse that and build a formula, and a story can call itself. The whole onion method of storytelling. So you tell a story and you go deeper and you go deeper and you go deeper. That's a recursive method.
Yeah.
So you're doing story, then you're doing story, then you're doing story. And then the art of it is at the core is to bring yourself back to the edge. And that is a multidimensional idea that is useful. And that one is, I can't think or breathe without just knowing that. It's just part of the way I think.
Nice.
Yeah.
I was going to say the edge where the snow melts. Did you know that snow melts on an edge?
Yeah, it's back to physics. Good link, right? So think about, I did a project once with the National Research Council in Canada, and we were working with scientists trying to commercialize a method. And the method was to just be efficient in simulation and to manage supplies. That was the idea. The theory they came up with was based on melting snow. The physical process is called annealing. So they had this big algorithm that they built and all this science, and they were walking around in their lab coats. And we're there to commercialize it. But we took that annealing algorithm based on melting. We applied it as an optimization in supply. So our model, and we were working at that time, I was working for defense. So I've spent 6 years of my career working in defense, building multiple military systems, mostly administrative, but sometimes there were really cool applications. So this one was to plan the supply chain for Jeeps in theater. So in theater is code for like they're being blown up somewhere. And the question is how much, and Jeeps are very simple. I don't know, all military vehicles that are 4 wheels on the ground that 4 people drive around in are very simple. They're meant to be repaired all the time because they break because they're in war and they're in theater. So like an old Jeep, like that classic Jeep from the Jeep company, can be disassembled in about 30 seconds, right to the motor and put in boxes and shipped. It's designed for that. So one of the funny tricks they do, if you search Jeep disassemble or Jeep Army showcase, they go on stage, 4 guys disassemble it in pieces. They drive it, they stop it, they disassemble it in pieces, right? Motors out, transmissions out, seats are out. Then they reassemble it and drive it away. This all takes like a minute.
Yeah, and I used to have quite a few of those. What was the model number? It was like from World War II. It was a Jeep
Is it
something.
well the
There's
CJ
like
is the one in class, but it's Jeep the beginning. I can't remember.
Yeah,
Like,
a Wiley,
vehicle.
Jeep Wiley,
Yeah.
I think it was. Because
Yeah,
those,
that's it. That's it.
yeah,
You got
because
it.
those you could disassemble. We use those for like hunting Jeeps, and yeah, everybody's, well, back then everybody had parts, not anymore, but yeah,
Yeah.
they're really flexible in that. Sorry,
So
continue.
the optimization was how much storage do you need close to theater to keep as many Jeeps working as possible? So
Yeah, so
10
you can
miles away,
take parts
100
off
miles
of
away.
one to put it on another. Yeah, it gets
Right.
damaged in battle. Yeah.
So they used the annealing technique, and we used Smalltalk to build the simulation. So
Mhm.
that was the story on using science, going to software to do a real thing. And then they actually used it. I found out after the program got declassified, I got a call from one of the scientists after the first Gulf War. He said, Rob, what? We used it. Used what? The software. Your kit, what? You mean the software? The simulation software? The annealing software? Yes. What? So can you tell me what did you apply to? Because now it got handed over to defense science. One of the chief, the chief of not chief of defense staff, but the chief of research was Romeo Dallaire, a very famous character in history. So we built that for him. So it was used in theater, and he tells me that it's used for the CF-18s, so F-18s. And I look at him and go like, you can't use that software for F-18s. To your point, Tony, no, not enough compute, not enough memory. F-18s are one of the most complicated flying devices in the world. They have millions of parts, not 14 logistically connected parts. So I'm like, you couldn't have used it. It wouldn't work. It was too big a problem, right? This stuff ran on laptops and there was no cloud. We couldn't translate it to mainframes because that would have been outrageously expensive to run simulations. So he said, what we did was just designed a model of an F-18, and we used the model of that to plan logistics supply to keep the F-18s in the air. So that's a true story, declassified, because it's the first Gulf War. That's what I do, and that's what I do for a living, and that's why I get to do what I do for a living now. And that's a bit of a story there, right? It all connects together. So the last one I have for you, Doyle, is something I posted this morning for your brethren in strategies. A piece I saw while I was prepping. Matt Damon in that Ford movie. Have you guys seen it?
No, I haven't. Is it good? That's a few years old now, isn't it? That was Ford versus, was it Ford versus? Okay. Yeah, no,
Ford versus Ferrari.
Ferrari, yeah.
Yeah. And I haven't seen the movie either. I just saw this clip and I'm looking at it going like, wait a second. That's all about strategy.
Cool.
So I don't know if you can
I can't zoom in on that.
Here, let me do this.
I think I saw you. Was that the video you tagged me in today?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Just loading. So I don't know if we have time to show it, but I wrote an algorithm and thinking on how to win based on that video, so I can teach people really quickly techniques of strategy and execution for real. And then I use the frame how to win because I'm working with a lot of Americans right now, and that's gets people's attention is how to win. But I started with the tips were how to win. Play the hand that you have, know your strengths, know your competition, pick a leader, follow the leader, know your competition twice, right? Yeah. Build your product better every day, know its weaknesses, use experts, communication, education, speak truth to power, go fast. If the wheels are not coming off the car, you are not going fast enough. That is how to win.
That's said by an
Yes.
engineer.
Oh yeah. Test, teach, learn things with movies, books, and games. There are lessons everywhere. If you've got 2 minutes, I can show this video.
Yeah, I'm okay. I'm good.
This is
Everybody
like,
else?
it's brilliant. I hope the sound works. Tell me if the sound works.
You might have to turn it up because it goes like through the air.
Why I don't fire everyone associated with this abomination, starting with you. Well, sir, I was thinking about that very question as I sat out there in your lovely waiting room. As I was sitting there, I watched that little red folder right there go through 4 pairs of hands before it got to you. Of course, that doesn't include the 22 or so other Ford employees who probably poked at it before it made its way up to the 19th floor. All due respect, sir, you can't win a race by committee. You need one man in charge. Now, the good news, as I see it, is that even with all the extra weight, we still managed to put old Mr. Ferrari exactly where we want him. Did we? Oh, yes. Expand. Well, sure, we haven't worked out how to corner yet, or stay cool, or stay on the ground. And a lot of stuff broke. In fact, the only thing that didn't break was the brakes. Hell, right now, we don't even know if our paint job will last a whole 24 hours. But our last lap, we clocked 218 miles an hour down the Mulsanne Straight. Now, in all his years of racing, old Enzo ain't never seen anything move that fast. And now he knows, without a doubt, we're faster than he is. Even with the wrong driver and all the committees. And that's what he's thinking about. He's sitting in Modena, Italy, right now. That man is scared to death that this year you actually might be smart enough to start trusting me. So yeah, I'd say you got Ferrari exactly where you want him. You're welcome.
How about that?
That's amazing. That's pretty cool.
Let's go around the table. What are your thoughts, guys?
Oh man.
Yeah, I was just saying, I mean, this was the most impactful one, and I think the other one was when they kind of take the ground and in the car. There was another quote I think which I remember, that there is a point beyond 7,000 RPM where everything fades. You know, I mean, those are like very philosophical, but really gels with the whole the whole storytelling, the way it was done beautifully. Very impactful.
Nice. Joe, what do you think?
I think I want to buy a race car now and just go have fun with it. Am I the only one thinking that? I don't know.
No, I'm an old car fan. I used to have a big BMW, and I've got in my garage, I've got the garage find 1979 911 Porsche. I have a race car for the same reasons I have a Skull. The same reasons that I love design, because design works. It's a design object. I also, my runaround car, I've got an old Jeep as well, because I love Jeeps, as you can tell. So I'm working on my keynote, Doyle. Porsches,
Nice.
Skulls, Jeeps, F1 racing, wheels off the car. So so if you don't, the easy thing to do if you don't want to buy an old car because they're expensive to keep. It's a very cheap car because I bought it when it was 20 years old. it's also a thing that gains value in my home every day without me doing anything, because now it's a classic. However, get to a track day, go take safety training. BMW has it all over the place. It costs a couple of good dinners or maybe 3 good dinners, but safety training in a BMW means you're in a parking lot with cones, driving like a maniac.
Yeah.
And you're trained how to stop on a dime, do donuts, do 90-degree turns. And I guarantee you that after that, take a rest, because you will be washed clean of all the noise in your system. Because every second and every time you turn a car 90 degrees, if you're going 60 miles an hour, 100 kilometers an hour, and you drive as fast as you can, and there's a wall there, and you have to do a 90-degree turn, there's only one way to do it. Your hands are on the wheel, you're driving straight, right?
The right way.
90 degrees, you can't drive like this. You have to do this.
Hmm.
So this is an unnatural act in the car. The first time I did it on track, I was on a racetrack, I thought, you can't do it. And then the guy, there was a coach in the car with me. He's screaming at me because I'm going down a straightaway. I'm going
You're not listening.
about 130, 140 kilometers an hour, as fast as I can go in this thing in second gear, third gear. So I'm whipping, and you see the cone. The first cone you see is you got to jump on the brakes, and that means stand on the brakes. Like you jump on it, so you're pushing your foot through the floor, because if you don't do it, you won't slow down enough. Porsche brakes are very, very famously good. You can't drive a car fast without good brakes. You need brakes to go fast. So you stand on it, and he's yelling at you, because if you go too fast in the corner, you die. And you literally die, because I have a Porsche Targa, soft top. They told me, if you don't do this right, you will die. So now I'm listening, because I'm not doing it hard enough. So I'm standing on it. I'm slowing down, rapidly decelerating. And he goes, turn. And then he told me before what I had to do. And then you see it, and the road is no longer there. There's just hay bales. It's 90 degrees. So you turn, whack. You pop your foot off the brake. You push the gas as hard as you can, and then it whips in, and you slingshot that way. That's driving fast. And the wheels don't come off.
Because they're not supposed to.
Nope. So I'm excited watching training. I have to watch this movie now. Doyle, what about your?
No, it looks really good. No, I just want to admire your sense of philosophy, Rob, in kind of this whole conversation. And I want to say I really appreciate that, because you kind of helping us think in other directions, which is always super important. Like and having this little video of the dialogue of that, it's really cool. I love the insight there, so thank you.
Yeah, well, last comment I'll have on important things and a bit of stoicism is I was in a bad thing on 9/11. Doyle knows about that.
Yeah.
So I'm not surprising Doyle, but I'm a 9/11 survivor and victim. I was on the 40th floor of the World Trade Center on 9/11. It's a very, very bad incident, very awful for a lot of people, a lot of families. People were killed, people got hurt. I came home. Longer story. Before that, I was in a car accident when I was in my early 20s. I was driving really fast in a Volkswagen, and I went through a red light, and I got hit by a cab, and I woke up in the ambulance. Right. So those two lessons in life is that life. Like what I said to myself walking away from the building as it was burning, like a big action movie. What I said to myself really, really quickly is that was too close. Life is too short, and I have to go home. So, gentlemen, we apply strategy to live. We create systems that work. Life is short. Enjoy every day.
Poof. It's like Rob magic.
My card today, Tarot, the magician.
Oh, is it?
Literally randomly drawn this morning.
So you knew I was going to call you a magician.
Well, you knew I was going to be late. So Doyle, as a favor, first of all, some feedback, guys. How did I do today? Can I improve? You want more? What would you like? Help me.
Impressive. Tony, I can't hear you. You were saying something? Oh, no, can't hear you. Yeah, your voice.
So we do this. Doyle and I work together at the Gray Swan Guild all the time. We're happy to have Joe, Vikesh, Tony join us and do fun things. I'll come back and bring swans to your stuff. We should do this. I love what you've done. You know I have to, right? 24 hours, multiple storytellers. I have to love it.
Yeah, no, you've done it. You guys have set the stage too, and I've always kind of looked at you and wondered, like, oh my God, I can't believe you're doing that, where you do like the all day and all night too. So there's obviously a few more people, but still it's quite the feat, quite the accomplishment as well. So
I love the way you've done it, because I'm like flying with a very small team of 3 all the time, and I want to do these with 3 people. I call it a wedge, and a wedge is actually the front of a flock that flies. You really get a lot of stuff done, but the pattern of getting experts together, getting an audience to push, setting a date, and then having a theme. Like my prep was reading what Doyle sent to me and being online. My misprep was not paying attention and putting 8:30 on my calendar. I just have but it was there. And then I just watched you guys and some of the recordings a little bit before I went to sleep, and I go, oh yeah, I get the tone. And Doyle and I have done this before. And then I do have favor real time. I do favor not practicing. I do favor improvisation is something that I bring to the table in all my projects. It's like, okay, prepare for 3 days, or I could hire experts who know what they're doing and then give you limited resources, and we're going to improvise. And that happens. And then I know when you improvise, because I know actors and I know the stage, nobody notices.
Yeah, I'm totally blown away, Rob, by this whole summary that you did, because it fits so nicely, and it fit magically into kind of what we're talking about and how we kind of want to express a summary of everything we've talked about as well. It's just amazing. Can I get that presentation? You said that you can share it easily on Google Slides.
Absolutely. I can, I'll share it to you. Where's this? I'm just going to put some of my, that's background.
You mind if I share it with as a resource with this last video?
I've got to cut some slides out of it, but it's meant for you, and I will speed it up for you. And it's basically Creative Commons, so anyone can use it with attribution. Doyle, that's what we do. All the guild stuff that we do, and that's not like Doyle stuff. Doyle is professional. You got to pay for that. Stuff in the guild designed for freedom and to be used with attribution. Creative Commons is one of our things. But yeah, I'll share it with you, and you can share it with the crowd.
Yeah.
It's in. So, and I'd like to invite you guys to participate anyhow, anyway. So this is Doyle's group. So I'm happy to come back, Doyle, if you want to bring two together, and we'll do a little, we'll do like version 2.
A strategy sesh.
Yeah. Just play some tools, some books, a little bit of dice.
Yeah, really.
I'll do tarot readings for everybody. Be good. Business tarot reading.
No, fantastic. No, thank you so much, Rob. I really appreciate you taking the time to put that together as well. And that says a lot for how dedicated you are to kind of that cause and to helping out as well, which is amazing to see. So thank you so much for that. And we got a clap from Joe. Excellent.
Oh yeah, I'll put my stop this share. I'll put my if you just search for me, Rob Tyrie, anywhere on the internet, you'll find me.
Yeah, there's only one of you. Like me, there's only one Doyle Buehler around the world, so it's easy to Google.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna kind of wrap up. I've made it past the 12 hours. I'm almost at 13 hours. I've got 12 minutes and 48 minutes under my belt, and only two pee breaks and 2 handfuls of M&Ms, half a Red Bull, 4 glasses of water. So I think I'm doing pretty good. I haven't had dinner. I had breakfast. I made sure I had breakfast, but I didn't have time for lunch or dinner.
You're amazing. You're an Iron Man. You're a Superman, Doyle.
Oh, thanks. I just don't wear tights because I wear a strategy lab coat.
That we know about.
Yeah, really. There's no video. You can't prove it. No, so excellent. So I'm just going to close off. Actually, Vikesh, did you want to say anything? I know and Joe as well. Did you want to kind of add to the conversation or add your piece or have a question or comment, and Tony as well.
I don't know if my volume ever came back. I don't think so.
You're back, Tony.
No, we didn't hear you.
Yeah.
I can hear you now.
Oh yeah, I just took my headphone right off because it
Oh.
was just, I don't know what's with my head. You know how it is. It's early morning here. I'm here. I was thinking, Rob, here, I'm in Edmonton, right? The story, the race car, oh, it shows one thing. I gotta say, doesn't matter about the whole race. You hit that one straightaway and you exceed that speed, you make people think. You make them stop in their seats. They're realizing that you may not have won the race today, but you're coming right at them. And it's such a cool story because I had such a great experience when I was a young guy in Melville, Saskatchewan. And I got to meet this guy who raced with AJ Foyt. He dirt raced in Saskatchewan. And he inspired me so much. I got this friend's dad to give me this old 72 LTD. And I found a friend of mine whose dad was the mechanic at the high school. And we were starting to build a car when I was 15 to stock race. Now I'm way too big of a guy to be stock racing, really, at the end of the day, right? But it was so cool. And then we moved to Alberta from there. So it kind of scrapped the whole thing. But it was such a thing. And I was starting to do that, like planning it, putting it together. I was taking that car out at night on the back roads and just opening it right up. It was awesome. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Fantastic. I really enjoyed your session, man.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I enjoyed your company, guys, and working with you. It's a pleasure. It makes me think. It forces me to update my slides. I love events. And then Doyle, I was wondering, I missed some of the things in the wee hours because I sleep and I'm not a vampire.
Right. Yeah.
Not until
That
Monday.
we know of.
Not until Monday, Halloween and all that. Are you posting any of the video or saving any of it? Or?
Yeah, they're actually all streaming live. So we're streaming live right now. So I've actually split them up by hours. So there's like 12 or 13 different live streams.
Awesome. I'd like to probably run an edit on mine, and
that's fine. Yeah.
But yeah, I love that concept, of course, and to capture all that value. And I do want to see what were the top 3 sessions, and I guess Tony, you were in a lot. I don't know if Joe and Vikesh were in. What were your top 3 that I should watch?
Well, I would recommend yours. I'd recommend yours. It was really good. I did watch Timothy Hughes. Timothy Hughes is really good. Who was it? Andrew. What's Andrew's last name? It's not with me currently. He was awesome.
Oh, Andrew Griffiths. Yeah. He's the
Andrew
Australian
Griffith.
author.
Michael was good.
Yeah.
Also, there was a lot of great, really great stories. There were some good stories.
None of you were around.
Really resonated.
Yeah, they were, and that's actually part of this too. One of the things I was going to say is Alex he came in right in the middle, and he's actually a company we're partnering with because they create these amazing brainstorming tools. These mover magnets. So they're erasable magnets, so you can actually sticky notes. Yeah.
Sold.
And so I'm actually adding that to strategystorming.co. We're actually partnering, and he's actually giving, I'll show it here. He's giving a couple sets of these mover books, they're called, mover pads. So you can they're all color coded. There's little magnets that you can write on. And I actually designed it created some templates.
Melvin Tan too, man. He was so good.
Oh yeah, true. Yeah. He grew his business out of Singapore.
His story resonated so well on just how he, hit the market and grew out there. It really, like, a lot of notes from him. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, no, for sure. So you know what, Rob, I don't think you're going to get off easy here. You're going to have to watch all of them.
Well, I like the style, right? And again, like outside my area of expertise, one of the gifts we all have when we do events like this, whether it's Doyle Strategy Company or Grace Swan Guild, is we get to call people and say, hey, come work with us. And they come, like I know I'm here. I know the other people are here.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, it's cool. I'll meet new people. And then one new idea, gentlemen, when you think it and apply it to your frame, it's like all of a sudden it's like, wow, it's like, yeah, that'll work. that's where inspiration comes from. So yeah, I'm gonna be watching them.
Yeah.
Well, and thanks so much for the invite to the Gray Swan Guild. I feel invigorated. Yeah.
Yeah. No,
Oh, yeah.
absolutely. It's a great,
Right.
yeah. I think we actually have isn't there a meeting in like 2 hours? It's a midnight meeting for me, or is that tomorrow night? No, today's Thursday. I'll have to
Fridays.
check. It's the Cygnus Sprint one.
Well, if you've got a link, send it to me. My day's a little busy. I got a few things, but yeah, I'd love to. Yeah, let me know when those are. This
Excellent.
is so awesome.
And Rob, I said that you know what, you had special privilege here too, because your session was like over an hour, and most people was like 15-20 minutes. I had to keep everybody on time, otherwise I wouldn't ever made it.
At the grace of if you're going to be this is what I do at a conference, as long as it's not 5 o'clock on a Friday. This is what I do, right? You look around and the room's not full because people have left because you're last.
Yeah.
So you're like, okay, all right. Yeah, if it's the room is right, and I'm loud, right? You can't tell them, but I'm loud. If the room's right, I do something. I unmic myself. I start bringing people to the front. So okay, move around. We're gonna do here. I sit on the edge of the stage if there's a stage. I ask from someone for a tall chair, and then it's like, okay, we're just gonna do this. And I just ask them, okay, so you see my bio, ask me any question you want. And usually there's a bio and a bunch of logo slides.
Yeah.
And then I just riff. It's all just riff. And
Yeah.
I did a presentation where I was literally all in black with the turtleneck, the whole deal, right? Steve Jobs. And,
Man in Black, get the guitar, yeah.
So I'm walking around and I'm doing a set piece and I'm talking about innovation and growing. It was a company that we had grown called Jana, and we had grown it to about 300 people, $20 million revenue. And we sold it for $1.4 billion. So that's the story I was telling, but it was really,
wow.
It's a cool story. I tell it much better now, but I wasn't as centered as I am now. And then I was losing the audience. So I kind of stopped and I said, okay, listen. All right. Just ask me anything you want. And it was a bunch of engineers, and it was a graduating class. So it was a master's degree engineering level. It was about 400 people in Montreal. And then I asked myself the first question: what is it like to receive the check as a principal in a company that gets sold for $1.4 billion? Anybody?
Pretty good.
I'm thinking good.
Is this a good check?
I'm thinking you want to take that one to the bank quick. That's what I'm thinking. Yeah.
So true story. I thought I was independently wealthy because it was a big number. It made my number. It was about $3 billion. And then on Sunday, it was like winning a really, really big game. I was floating. I was planning to go to France and take my family to France, and I was going to finish my French because I speak really bad French and I want to speak French better because I was born in Montreal. I was going to start a small company, a boutique with Doyle. I didn't know Doyle, but if Doyle existed in my life back then, it would be with Doyle. And we just go have fun and fool around in Nice, big IBM place there. So I did my research. It's all on Sunday. We're going, Doyle.
Perfect. And I know a guy in Nice. He actually came and spoke with us, Christian Jumelet from Nice.
And then, it's not story's not over yet, right?
Okay.
So on Monday, after I'm floating on the air, I got a call from my boss, and he says, Rob, this is in the year 2000. He says, Rob, there's a problem. I'm like, what problem? We changed the control. We got sold. I have this options. I'm getting paid. I got the spreadsheet everyone's got. We've got options. I'm getting paid. Daddy's getting paid. I am rich. There's a problem. What's the problem? That change of control thing that we told you about? No. There's no we thing. This is the CEO told me this. The CEO told me this. On change of control, I would get paid. Because when I joined that company, I joined late, and I joined, I was like the 60th, 50th person in the company. I thought that it would get sold. So I said, well, I'm not doing this unless I make whole. Well, you're going to get options, Robin, and if there's change of control, but I didn't get it in writing. And Rob, we're at the peak of the .com boom. Everything's frothy. Siebel stock at the time was trading at $70. I had very low options to make my money. So all I had to do was wait there. So I had the money, and then I didn't have the money.
Uh,
And then invested over 2 years. And then 9/11 happened. People stock went down to $7. That's
Tragic.
the sound of options that
disappearing.
underwater.
Yeah.
But I remember.
There you go. York.
Memento mori, gentlemen. Memento mori. I'm good. I'm alive.
All right.
I've made a lot of success for other people. I've gotten people's kids trained and my kids trained, and I love my life and I love working with you.
Well, love working with you too, Rob. Thank you so much. Vikesh, did you have anything to add? And Joe and Tony, and then I'll just I'll do a final summary, and then yeah, good to go. I made
I
it.
think
13 hours, 10 p.m. I said I was going to do it. I did it. Woo.
Yeah, high five. Thanks so much for inviting me. I was so glad to kickstart it. I was like Rob, I was texting Doyle, and I'm like, is it in an hour or is it in 2 hours? Right? Like, it was like
time zones are always such a pain. We need like one time zone around the world.
I think in the future we'll switch to universal time. It'll just be, we'll all know it. We'll just know it. We'll say it's 4 o'clock. It just works.
Yeah.
When the chip is embedded, we don't even have to think, right? Like,
yeah.
They
cool.
Great asset here. It's good.
They do a time zone in China, which is across the whole country, but it becomes really weird when it's like the sun's still up at 10 o'clock at night or something like that.
Oh, really?
Just some really weird stuff happens when you don't have the time zone split up. But I could see it being really convenient. I mean, this is the first time I'm on Doyle's time zone the whole time I've known him, because Australia is such a big country.
Yeah.
And I'm in Indonesia, so it's like the first time that I'm sort of lined up next to Perth.
Yeah.
I just love that we're from all around the place. Like, it's so cool when we get on these, right? Like, just different times of day, different side of the world. The man down under there always, right? Like, it's awesome. Yeah.
Well, that was one of my big hurdles. It's like, how do I actually coordinate all these different times? Because it's like every different city. It's like, and is some of them are in Australia, like we're on daylight savings now. So it's 3 hours from east to west, but in North America, you don't go till next weekend. It's like, oh my God, this could be a big problem. And
because you've crossed time zones, I'm sure by at some point going through all of this, you might be ready for a drink. Well, It's got to be 5 p.m. somewhere, right?
Yeah, really. Yeah. Well, it's 10 p.m. somewhere else as well. All right. Thank you, gentlemen. I really want to thank you and appreciate the time you've taken to join me here for one session or multiple sessions. Tony, you've been stellar in sort of supporting me from the beginning. So I really want to say thank you for that. Rob, thank you for your amazing ideas and insights today. That was really just a brilliant way to close. Joe, thank you for joining. We'll have to do this again. I know we spoke a couple weeks ago, but enjoy the Bali sunset. No, it's late there already too. So, and Vikesh as well, thank you so much for joining, and I would love to have this conversation again real soon. I'm going to close off. I'm just going to go through some final stuff, so feel free to just drop off, and then I'm going to jump off live stream and finish off the day. So it's been a wonderful experience. But you can stand by and listen. I'm just going to go through a final tally of the different prizes and what we're doing and all that kind of stuff. So feel free to jump off and finish off your day or whatever the case may be. So we are almost good to go here. Thank you everybody for joining in. Thanks everybody for watching on the live stream. Thank you for all the amazing comments and the feedback and insights as well. We closed the session with Mr. Rob Tyrie from Toronto, Vikesh from India, Tony from all the way from Edmonton, myself from Perth, and Joe Bellissimo from he's actually in Bali as well. So we've had an amazing day, and I actually lasted past the 13 hours. It's 13 hours and 4 minutes. So it's been fantastic. I've been counting down. I've had 3 glasses of water, 1 bottle of water, half a Red Bull, a little handful of M&Ms, and a couple bathroom breaks as well throughout. So I've had the tremendous opportunity of actually speaking with and talking with 24 people around the world in the last 13 hours. And I got this from Andrew Griffiths, who said remarkably, and it's going to be seared in my mind forever, is that if you can look at your calendar and it makes you smile, then you're going to have a great day. And every time I look at this, because I'm on a cycle, right? So every hour I look at this again, it's like, these are the amazing people that I was able to talk with throughout the day today. So it's been a fantastic experience. And it makes me smile to know that, we've all shared this time together. We've all shared, these multiple time zones and locations and that sort of thing. So it's really been fantastic. And I want to express my gratitude for taking the time to watch and to jump in and jump out and jump in again and to speak and everything else like that. So thank you to everybody who's been doing that throughout the day as well. The purpose of this was the launch of strategystorming.co. So that's the new website to, come and celebrate the grand opening of the online strategy studio and shop that is changing how we rethink, reinvent, and reimagine how to do better business. So that's the ultimate goal. We talked about a lot of that in this last session, right? How do we combine science? How do we combine art? How do we combine, Rob's rules of strategy, which are really cool. And I'm going to be sharing those wide and far as well. We want to be able to rethink and reinvent business. And one of those ways that we need to be able to do that is understand how we can play with strategy, literally and figuratively, and understand those pieces that are important and the building blocks that we need to see and that we need to put in place, and how we can actually see these pieces fit, right? It is ultimately like a game, and can we put these pieces together properly in an order that allows us to magnify and amplify our businesses and or our clients' businesses, or whatever the case may be. So we want to make sure that we harness that. That's the purpose of strategy storming, is to look at the artfulness of business, the art, the science. How do we actually manage this, and how do we craft a better strategy as well? So as a gift, everybody who registered, you're going to get your own set of 3D glasses. These are like our BS detectors. I think that's probably a better name for them, so that you can see things in 3D. No, not really, but it's just for fun. Actually, you can't see that, but there we go. Yeah, you can see the models in 3D. No, not really. But anyway, we want to have a little bit of fun with this as well. So I'm going to send out 3D glasses for that, which is a good way of doing that. And we talked about this as well, the Easy Strategy Lab Coat, right? So it's going to position everybody as strategic thinkers, right? Think of it as active wear for the creative strategist. So when you're in that role, when you're in that thinking mode of how do we actually make this work, you put on your strategy lab coat and away you go. You're shifting your mind, you're shifting your perspective as well. So go to strategystorming.co. There's a little pop-up menu that you can enter the draw for that as well. And I'll be drawing that in the next couple of days, along with a number of other prizes. And we're going through that. So just to quickly close, a couple of things, I'll just speed through this, but what's really important, actually, that's the other slide deck. I've got had to simplify my slides. There's a number of workshops in there that you can look at, and the next big one is called the One Big One, the Strategy Academy 2023 annual. I'm having a hard time talking. My jaw's getting a bit sore. It's like I've been in the cold. Anyway, the 2023 annual strategy planning festival coming up on the 15th, 16th, and 17th of November. You can get a great discount at this point right now. Enter the code Grand Opening 20 for that and other products as well. And what I've done is I'm adding more products as well as we kind of expand the store and what you can kind of do there as well. So we're putting in a bunch of workbooks and books and worksheets and templates and models as well, as I talk about a lot, the AMPS model. We can use this for problem solving. You can actually download digital versions of some of these. There's a whole bunch of paraphernalia too. There's a Team Awesome coffee cup that some of you I know might like as well, to be part of the Strategy Storming gang. And then actually, I'll talk about that first. One of the key ingredients is the strategy canvas worksheet. I'm giving this away, no charge for the digital download. You can actually purchase the paperback copy as well, but it's a simple strategy book that allows you to, I take you through the major steps of building these models for you, so you can actually see how it works and create one for your specific client or a business or whatever the case may be, as a practitioner or a strategist. I walk you through all the 4 elements, and then we're actually able to go through this in much more detail and answer a series of questions to see, okay, what's important here, what not important, what's a priority, what can we do here, what can we do differently as well, and take a look at all of these different elements. So we walk you through that, and then at the end of the day, you're able to create. You've got this worksheet that you can just tear out. Just for the magic of the camera, you can actually cut this piece out, and then you fold it up, fold it out, and then you're able to create your simple model here. So it's a really easy process. It's very step by step. It's very straightforward as well. So you can create these pretty easily, and you can design them for all different types of challenges as well. It doesn't necessarily have to be your business strategy. It can be, a specific problem or a challenge. I've done one of the ones that we talked about earlier with one of the speakers was Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? So we can actually create one based on that as well. So that's what I did here. And we have the storytelling archetypes here, and we have Maslow's foundation of needs. We have a product roadmap. We have a clients program. We have a tech club. We have a product roadmap. We have an inspiring, feeling, thinking, sensing. So we can really use them for a wide variety of different reasons as well. And so what I'm doing is giving this away for free. Go to the website strategystorming.co, and you can download the digital version of it for free if you use the code strategystorming-DD for digital download, in case anybody was confused out there. All right. I think I'm going to close it on that. I'll be sending everybody some of the other links as well for the strategy survey, which is a great way of helping us with what do you guys see in the industry and in your marketplace as well. So if you got time for that, please go through the strategy survey also. So excellent. So I want to wrap up with that. Thank you so much. Really appreciate your time. Thank you for everybody for watching, for participating. Rob, been a pleasure. Tony, been an absolute slice. Thank you so much for your participation. Good night. Good afternoon. Hello. Good morning.
Thanks for everything. Later.
Yeah. Take care.
Later.
Thanks.